We are live. Okay, so today we're going live with Rachelle of Saevil Row. She is brand concept design genius, and she also has her own podcast. So we're going live at 3 p.m. because she is in Australia. So no accent though. She's originally from the U.S. Maybe Canada. I need to ask her, but I'm excited for you guys to watch this. There's some really cool stuff that we're going to be talking through. She's into some cool stuff on the side, as well as her company. She does pottery, ceramics. So I want to dive in. Let's get you on here. We are waiting while it's loading. That's the best entry.
Ready.
That was great.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
I just saw your "let's do this" in my
Let's do
DM when I
this.
was going live. That was so funny.
I am ready.
Okay,
I'm so
can you?
excited to chat.
I know for real. What time is it there where you are?
It's 9 a.m., so it's not as early as I was expecting. So
Yes.
that's good. We're good.
Good. Okay, good. Wait, are you originally from Australia? Part of me thought that I have never heard an accent from you, so I've always thought you're from the US, but you moved to Australia. Or where are you originally from?
From Canada originally, and then I
That
moved
was
to-
it.
Yeah, or moved
Okay.
I moved to Australia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been there, and then why did you move? Like, was it fun, friends, family?
Yeah, I've been here for 4 years. Like it'll be almost
That's
5 years in March, which is so crazy.
that's
So
awesome.
more like the 4.5 year mark.
Yep.
And honestly, like I originally moved kind of a few things brought me here and then a few other things kept me here. So I feel
Cool.
like it's so interesting connecting the dots now and thinking back to that time because I never in my wildest dreams would have thought I'd be here because it was
Yeah.
never even on my bucket list. Like it was
No
never
way.
even something I wanted to do. So
Ooh,
here we
and
are.
you love it. Are you there for a while, as long as you can think?
I love it. You know, I think part of me still is somewhere else, but
Okay.
for the time being, it's so great here. And I feel what I love so much about it is like the way of life and the sort of entrepreneurial vibes. But just like
Yeah.
I'm a morning person. So for people who wake
Ooh.
up early and like go for morning walks, that's me. And I love
Cool.
that. So whereas
That's
when I
cool.
lived in Paris, it was like nothing was even open until like 10 a.m. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing
Yeah,
all that time?
because everyone's out so late, right?
Totally. And they have
Yeah.
dinner at like 11. So it's like,
Oh,
you know, definitely more of a morning.
secretly, honestly, that's my dream. Like, how late can I eat dinner and stay up to make it like relevant to my work and then sleep into like 10 or 11? Maybe I'm more of a Paris person than an Australia
Yeah,
person.
you sound like you're a night owl then for that.
Yeah, I totally am. But I'm also a night morning owl because my son wakes up at like 6 a.m. So I'm just like awake all the time.
Totally.
But okay, so I just did a quick intro, but you
Yeah.
have your own branding design company and you also have your own podcast. And
Yeah.
so I'd love for you to dive into just a bit about where you are at currently in both things and like the exciting stuff happening.
Totally. Thank you for asking. So
Yes.
Saevil Row has been around for 5 years this year, which is a massive milestone. I
Woohoo.
feel like I've got that going. I'm like, okay, I'm in that groove. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's just a business that kind of turns over itself. And we work with clients all over the world, which is really cool. So being in Australia is great, but like we service clients from a global scale, which is awesome as well. So I never feel like I'm like rooted in one place. Which I feel like was my intention all along, like being able to have that flexibility of doing other things. So yeah, that's been going on for 5 years. And then recently this year, I started a podcast for another business that I started with a girlfriend called Girl Interrupted. And the whole premise around the business and the podcast is giving a platform, inspiration, and motivation for other women in business to just get shit done. So having on guests who are in the thick of it, so not like at the end of their journey where they've made it, but really getting to know the nitty gritty middle bits of being a business owner and what that looks like. Because for a lot of people, still having a side hustle is how they build their business before they leave their full-time job. So really what we found is that there was a lack in a lot of the support, I guess, like, and real life stories to kind of help people get through it. Because again, you hear a lot of the end of the road stories, which is
Oh,
great,
I
but
love
we
those,
need
but
that
I'm like,
support.
yeah, we're struggling over here. Tell us the middle. That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are my two projects at the moment, and it's funny because I heard you mention that I do ceramics, which is true. I've been doing that for the last year, and I love it. It's such a great outlet.
Uh-oh, my internet.
Oh,
Let's see.
are you
We'll give
back?
it a
Am I
sec.
back?
There we go. Okay,
Okay.
so you've been doing ceramics for the last year, you said?
Yeah, and what I love so much about it is it's totally a creative outlet where you have to be there and be present. Like for those 2 hours that I'm there every week, it's like nothing else matters, just focusing on that. But what I've really come to realize, like, it's creativity can kind of come in any forms, which I love. But also it's funny because I'm making all these things and people are like, when are you going to start selling them? I'm like, not everything
Yeah.
needs to be a business, you know?
Okay, I love both the things that you're doing, but the biggest thing I want to dive into is ceramics. How annoying is that? It's like you're doing the most coolest things ever, but how did you like, did you do ceramics in college or high school, whatever, when we did those home ec classes? So how did you land on this? Because it's just like such a love language of mine, and exactly how you said it, of it's all you can focus on in that moment. You could spend 8 hours working on one amazing piece. So give me your
Yeah.
insight into that.
Honestly, it was something that I've always really wanted to do. And
Yeah.
I felt like because I was so consumed with running a business that I didn't do anything for me that like filled my soul. And
Yeah.
so actually last year, I think last year is when I really started, and I only did maybe like 3 classes or 3 rounds of classes.
Okay.
And honestly, it's getting in the habit of doing something, right? It's like
Yes.
picking up the repetition and doing something over and over again. So I didn't really do it a lot last year. And then this year I was like, right, I'm going to commit to this every week. Just book out those classes, Tuesday's pottery night, and that's what it
Yeah.
is. And sticking to something, and just like, I think when you start to see the progress, you're like, okay, I'm enjoying this. Let's keep this going. So honestly, it was just a matter of booking myself in. Like, you always say that, oh, I wish I could do this, or one day I'll do that. And I just went and did it. And then it's just the
Yeah.
repetition of doing it over and over again, that got me there consistently. So
Yeah.
consistently, I've been doing it since January.
How cool is that? It's like it's something that makes me super relatable too, because we all have, especially people in the branding marketing area, we're all very creative, and we have that desire to work with our hands and create something, whether
Oh,
it's digitally on the computer or we have our own art form. So the fact that you're finding that space, even though you're an entrepreneur running different things, to like make time to carve out for yourself. I put a social media timer on, and I forget every once in a time, like, turn that off so you don't get cut off in your live. Because I only give myself 30 minutes, and it happens every time.
that's
So
so
there's that. But yeah, taking time to carve out for yourself, haha, carve out.
fun.
That space, yep, that space to just, be you and be a creative and be an artist. And honestly, I think it's such a huge thing for mental health too this year. So that's cool. I've
Okay.
been looking for, I did it in college, and it was like just a newfound passion. And so I'm looking for a studio in LA. Any of you watching, if you know of cool ceramic pottery studios in LA, let's do this. But can I dive into your a little bit of your past? And the premise of this is when I grow up.
Yeah.
Because I love the idea of what are those secret dreams that we all have, or maybe not so secret, and what did or did we not do to stoke those growing up? And maybe it was nurture, nature, or family, or friends, or school, whatever. But what was that one thing or those few things you would always thought you would do? And then did you do them? If not, what is like that current when I grow up dream? Just to keep us all dreaming, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I'm still at
Yeah,
that point where I'm
same,
like, when I grow
same.
up,
I
I
would
want
love
to
a
do
chef
that.
when I grow up.
Yeah, totally. So it's so interesting that you say that, because when you look back and you connect the dots over time to be like, oh, this makes so much sense. I feel like I was always destined to have a business. I literally
Yeah.
was the one that would have the lemonade stand. I'd braid
Cool.
hair at the farmer's market when I was like 11 or
With the
8.
strings, color strings.
Totally. The color
Yes.
strings,
Okay.
like just
Okay.
the one
I need
strand
some. Yeah, I love that.
hang down. And I feel like for me, that was something I always was into, A, making money, and
Yeah.
B, doing something creative.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, I've always been creative. Like I've always tapped into that. And so for me, like I remember drawing sketches of clothes and wanting to be a fashion
Ooh.
designer. And that's sort of something that I was like, oh, that would be so cool. It's not like I had this distinct dream of being like, yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to do X. I feel like I kind of just like went with it and always sort of dabbled into like art in some realm. I was definitely more of like the English and art kind of gal, not
Same.
at all.
Do you get
Like,
stressed
no.
looking at numbers and like science? Oh my God. I want to throw up. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
totally.
no, thank you.
I can draw you the numbers and like,
Yes.
do that. But in terms
In
of
7 different fonts.
no. So I think being always kind of in that like arty English scene, that was always sort of something that I really kind of played into, especially in high school. And now here's a funny story. When I was probably like 17, 18, so like near the end of high school, that movie What Women Want with Mel Gibson came out.
Stop. Yeah.
They did a remake like recently called What
I saw that.
Men Want. Yeah, the opposite one. And
Mhm.
so it was interesting because seeing this movie, he was an exec at an agent, like a advertising agency, and he was an art director. And I was like, that job looks so cool. I want to do that. So I feel like he inspired me to want to get into like advertising and design. And my dad's best friend had a design agency. And so I had gone there and did like a day in their studio where I got to kind of see what they did and that kind of thing. And then I found a program that was advertising and graphic design. So that was sort of how that all transpired to be. And I feel like, especially with my story, is like I went to school and I'm doing exactly what I had set up to do, because you find people sometimes that go to school for one thing and then they change career paths. And I might change career paths down the road, but for right now, like this is exactly what I've been doing since I was 18. So
Yeah.
And I'm 35, so it's a big like been
That's
here
amazing.
for a while. Yeah.
Happy COVID birthday, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you.
How sad are these? Like, I turned 30 this year during COVID, and you know, turned 35. It's just like such a letdown, but hey, we can make this up. 31 and 36 is going to be baller.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's a fun little story to connect the dots.
I love that. And too, it's just kind of like you had the connections, you know, your dad, best friend, but also you had that desire and you were already sketching. And so this is my question, because I studied graphic design, and this is a sidebar, but how can you sketch really well? And if we were still in that graphic design age of having to sketch and do all the things with your hands, would you love it or would you die?
I would die. Like, I don't think I can do it. I used to be really good at like, painting and drawing, but now, especially since I'm out of practice, like our version of graphic design versus graphic design 20 years ago is so different. So I rely heavily on computer 100%.
Yeah.
Versus,
Do you use a Wacom tablet?
I don't actually. I don't.
Just your laptop.
I'm a lot more of like sorry, it's my dog in the background.
Hi, Pinot.
Behave
Her
yourself.
dog's name is Pinot. I'm guessing that's your favorite brand of red wine.
Yeah, so good. And so no, definitely don't have a Wacom, but I'm a kind of a traditional mouse girl, and so cool. I can certainly do things like that. But yeah, if I had to hand draw things, I don't even know where I'd go.
It would take so long. Okay, this is also very funny, but you know how we all make fun of, like, in the design world, papyrus and like using the same fonts for terrible things and like center justified text. What is your current pet peeve at the moment for other graphic designers that are watching to laugh at? Because I'm sure there are some ones that I'm like out of scope on. Or
you
like
know what?
Yeah.
I see this, and not even like a pet peeve that I feel like designers don't necessarily do a pet peeve. It's more like the people who are doing things on Canva and like not really knowing what to do. But like proper spacing and proper hierarchy drives me mental.
Yes.
I feel like when you're designing something, like you have a real ability to like bring people in and make something super visually appealing. And to do that, you need the hierarchy in terms of like your font styles and weight and like sizing and you need proper spacing. So for me,
Yes.
like spacing and fonts are a big one.
Yeah, okay, I love that. That's huge. I'm trying to tweak my questions as I go because I'm still interested in the when I grow up, but I'm also like, how can I pull from you experts and like get those little hits, those tips and tricks for people?
Yeah.
So, I know what you're working on. You've got the podcast, you've got your branding company. We know where you came from. What is like, what's some major, I don't know, maybe we talk to other designers or maybe we talk to your clients, but what are some major like tips and resources and things that you are loving right now? It could be for anything. Like maybe it's your ceramics or maybe it's branding, maybe it's podcast, but yeah, hit me with some good stuff that I can share with people.
You know what's interesting is that my number one thing right now is, and I'll give you the inside tip. I feel like this idea has come to me and it hasn't gone away, so I know that there's some merit to that.
Ooh.
I'm creating, coming live maybe next week, like a free inspiration challenge. And what that means is that I feel so many of us in this time
Did you just throw
I'm,
Peanut a
yeah,
toy?
I just
I saw you like, I'm like, that's exactly what I do when I'm on the phone with
like
Goldie. I'm like, go over there.
exactly. Go over there. I feel like we don't give ourselves enough credit for like A, how creative we are and anyone being creative, and B, it's tapping into that. And so
Yeah.
really where I'm at right now and what I'm really trying to call in and encourage other people is to be looking for inspiration in honestly in anywhere, because it can
Yeah.
come from anything. And so whether that is a matter of finding a recipe that looks really interesting, maybe it looks challenging to you, and committing to that on Saturday night when you had time to like go to the market, go to the market, get some ingredients, that kind of thing,
Yes.
and then make it. And I think that is something that's so interesting. Sorry.
This is so funny right now. I'm like loving what you're saying, but I'm also like, Pinot, I get you. You got a good toy. Love this.
Gotta get into it. So yeah, I feel like it's a matter of really tapping into opening your eyes and
Yeah.
slowing down a little bit to really acknowledge and observe what's around you, because there's so much that we can pull from. And where you are, not necessarily California, because I feel like California has like one season, but like,
Yeah.
in North America, it's autumn. In this hemisphere, it's becoming spring. So the biggest thing is thinking like, for us, it's like the flowers are blossoming. We're having really beautiful colors. And same with the autumn weather. It's like the leaves are turning and that kind of thing. So it's taking a moment to like observe and recognize and be present of like the smells, the colors, the textures, because inspiration really does live everywhere. So I'm really in this phase right now of like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's like you need to take time for yourself, but you also need to take time to be inspired by the things that are around you.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I feel sometimes when ideas come to you and like they don't go away, you're like, okay, I need to do something about this. And the idea in my head just kind of popped in on like maybe like a 5-day inspiration challenge that I would just run on Instagram. I would share, the 3 things a day that I found that inspired me and why.
Yeah.
And just by vocalizing that, I feel like hopefully that would also encourage others to do the same. And I don't know what that looks like. I feel like I just need to throw it out there and just be like, this is what I'm doing. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably do it like next week. But I really hope people join in, because again, like I said, there's so much around us that we can be inspired by and look at things differently, because especially in this phase and this space right now in time where we're kind of like kept to close proximities, we can't travel necessarily to far away places. So it's like, how can we really maximize our current space?
I'm having such travel FOMO and hearing you talk right now. It's so funny. I think it's got to be a creative thing because your challenge idea and having that idea that's sticking. Did you ever read Big Magic by Elizabeth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
yeah. So it's along those lines of like, you have to take the idea before someone else takes and runs with it, because the universe is going to send it anywhere anyways. But I have some photo series that I've been holding on to until like I have those free 4-5 minutes a day. But I'm loving this. I want to do this challenge. This sounds like something that we all need.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it will be really good. And again, like I said, I think especially in this time, it's shown us that we need to slow down and be grateful for what we have in our lives. And, as simple things as like breathing fresh air and going to get a coffee when we
Yeah.
were, you know, challenged with not being able to do that before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a few more questions. What are your favorite things about Australia? Is there some things that you absolutely love? Like, is it your favorite coffee shop, the weather, the people? You mentioned it's entrepreneurs, but give us a look for those of us that have not been or want to go.
I don't think there is a bad cup of coffee in Australia. They just
Oh, I
have
love hearing
great
that.
coffee. So that's one thing I love. The other thing, being in Sydney, we're on the East Coast, so we're right on the coast. And so
Yeah.
going to do a coastal walk and being right by the ocean, I love. And I'm a
Yeah.
Pisces, so I feel like that little fish nature, I'm like, okay, give me all the water. Which growing up in Canada, I never knew that I needed or
Had that.
wanted,
Yeah.
but there's something to be said about like ocean breeze and
Yeah.
that ocean air. And honestly, right now it's spring. I'm looking outside at like the budding flowers and everything. I'm like, I live for this weather and temperature, and I'm so much more of like a spring summer gal than my partner. He's like winter autumn. So I'm like, I don't know how this happened, but
That's amazing. It's so funny. Do you guys get snow in Australia, like in Sydney where you live?
not in Sydney, but like 6 hours south, we get snow.
Okay.
And there's like ski resorts and that kind of stuff there as well. So we went there in July when it was like proper winter and had
that is so
time. Yeah, it was
July
so
is proper winter. Here it was like 85, 90. It's still like 90 something degrees. I'm in my courtyard and I'm just like, I need some breeze, but it's definitely still way too hot. Okay, so other things like, are you reading anything interesting? Are you following anyone interesting on Instagram?
Yeah, so I love mixing up my reads between like a fiction book and a business or like personal development
My
book.
sister does that. Yes.
Yeah. So right now I'm reading, it was the same Lauren Weisberg or something from The Devil Wears Prada. So her book called Last Night at Chateau Marmont.
Yes.
So I'm only like early in on that one, which I'm loving. So I'm loving that as like my fiction read. And then as my more like development book, I'm reading Joe Dispenza. What is it? Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Ooh. So it's training your mind to think differently. So I'm kind of all about that right now in kind of that like personal development and growth space. So that's what I'm really, really loving. And then on Insta, there's a few people that I follow that I just love their stuff. One of them is Brooke Valinovich, and she's a fellow Aussie. She's in Perth, so more on the other end of Australia. But she does social media and she has programs and courses, but she's just a wild personality. She's so funny. I love seeing her online. And so she's definitely one of my like go-to followers or follows. Cool. And then another girl that I love for like lifestyle random stuff is Amber V. Scott. So she's like, yes. Do you follow her?
So good. I love her. Yes.
She's so wild too. And then one other person that I've been loving her reels. What was her? She used to be called something else, but now she's Leonie Han. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yes. She used to be called like Dior or something.
I love her so much. Damsel in Dior?
No.
That was a different one. Yes,
but like,
I love her. Oh
her
my God.
reels are like, I gotta give it to her. She's so creative with all the things she comes up with, and I love watching them. I'm like, yes, that's super cool.
Yeah. Okay, last question before I let you go.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. We don't have to put a timeline on it, but my son is like, I see him, my husband's home with him, and I'm like, I know they need me, but I have me time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so hard. But so your podcast, was that like hard to get into and nerve-wracking? And then now that you've been almost a year in, what is the next phase of it? Like, what are you looking at? How are the episodes going? Give us some look into that, because I know a lot of people that maybe have a company and they want more areas to market. They have Reels, Instagram, Facebook Lives, all that, but maybe they're thinking about doing a podcast. What is some stuff that you've gone through and are going through on that?
Podcasts are great for the exposure when you have an established brand, or even if you have a new brand to kind of gain a new audience. It is so much work.
Good. Tell us that.
How intense podcasting is. If I didn't have my friend Gina do it with me, there's no way I would do it on my own. Just like hands down, not happening. Between like finding your guests, researching, writing the sort of like outline and questions, recording,
Yeah.
editing, promoting. Like it's a whole thing. So it wasn't nerve-wracking per se. I feel like also because we're not doing it in front of an audience. So it's like post recording it that obviously people listen. But I think the biggest thing is like just getting over the fact of doing it and just like being yourself. Because I think it's, you know, when you come on Instagram stories, you're like, hi, happy whatever day it is, and like here I am. Yeah, but
You're like filter, everything's perfect. Yeah, totally.
yeah. Whereas podcasts, I think the benefit of podcasts is that you can edit it afterwards. So if you do mess up, it's like you can kind of keep going, but it's a good practice to just let it be. And for us, we've never really been one to cut out like the ums and the whatever. Good. We've gotten better with it, but we kind of just also like record it and then just go with it. So what I love so much about that is that we've had access to some really interesting people that we probably wouldn't have without the podcast. So that's really exciting. Yeah. And in terms of like what's ahead, it's just kind of really reaching out to people who, again, aren't necessarily in our immediate networks that we can really leverage, who have something to say, and to share more stories to encourage more women to go after it. I think that's the biggest thing. And when you hear someone else's story, they may just say one thing that really kind of gets you going and really lights that fire underneath. So really for us, it's just kind of keep going with producing content that is meaningful and inspiring, and whatever that looks like for us, you know, moving forward, that's really our main focus. And because the podcast is sort of like a side thing, it's focusing on that without making it mean anything bigger. And I think that's the challenge with any sort of business, especially when it's not like we're making a ton of money from it. So it's like really a passion project that you need to be fueled through consistently.
Yeah. See, that consistency is key. I love that.
Yeah, totally. Without a doubt.
So this has been so much fun, and I'm just brainstorming all the ways that we can pull some amazing insights from you. You're always on stories, you're always on Reels, so I know that we can stalk you on Instagram and follow your website. Keep me updated with anything that's coming up. I want to make sure that I can follow. This was so cool.
Thank you. Rachelle, I wish you were like in real life, like having a drink in your backyard.
I know. I actually would love to come to Australia, so maybe we connect when all of these travel restrictions are up. I mean, no one wants any U.S. citizens anywhere, so we're kind of like banned because they don't like us. But this is awesome. Exactly. But thank you so much. I'm so glad we got to do this. Let's do it again. Bye.